My guest today is a best selling author, award winning motivational speaker, innovator, entrepreneur, executive leader, and someone who has dedicated her life to helping people break through fear, self doubt, and limitation. She is the CEO of Empower Hour, president of the Butterfly Element nonprofit, vice president at Desert Capital Management Group, founder of Crowned Consulting, and a published author whose work focuses on empowerment, resilience, confidence, and personal transformation. She's the one and only Stephanie Mears. I'm Vardan, and you're watching the Vardan Ter-Antonyan Show. Let's go.
Welcome to the Vardan Ter-Antonyan Show. We're sitting down with authors, speakers, entrepreneurs, executives, and industry leaders to talk about business, leadership, and strategy. In a world where competition is ruthless, information is power, and decisions move markets, this is where leaders learn how to win. Let's get into it.
Over the years, she has spoken on stages, podcasts, radio shows, and conferences around the world. But what stands out most is her mission to genuinely help people rebuild belief in themselves and move forward in life. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome Stephanie Mears to the show. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, it is my pleasure. So I want to start by talking a bit about your current businesses, such as, consulting, coaching, and speaking. Could you tell the audience about those and how those businesses help people?
Absolutely. So I feel so grateful and blessed every single day that I get a chance to help people in different facets. So whether that be through my consulting firm, which is Crowned Consulting, and I help businesses, people who have these beautiful dreams to create businesses, and then I kind of help them bring those dreams into more of a reality and then show them how to make it successful, but then also how to create an, an exit strategy as well. So it's just a wonderful experience. And then I also feel extremely grateful to have the opportunity to speak on so many different stages, podcasts, radio shows, and so many other opportunities to speak about overcoming obstacles and overcoming, turning fear into faith and understanding that it's possible to go from literally a child who's homeless to a millionaire before 35. And one of my ultimate goals with every single one of these different facets of my life is to show and help anybody who's willing to listen, for one, but anybody who actually really wants that help, I'm here to help where I can.
That is so amazing. And, the problems that you've touched on, they touch so many people, like millions of people go through the same thing. And when you do go through those adversities, you either survive or you don't. And, you either thrive or you don't. And we'll touch on that a little bit as the show progresses. But here's how people can reach you for a consultation, coaching, or speaking requests. Just go to stephaniemears.com, StephanieMearse.com. Check out her services and contact her from there. There's like just literally everything is there. They can access all your kind of outlets and stuff. So I've heard you speak, and I can tell people that, this will be the best decision that they've ever made, because, you will bring like an unmatched energy and motivation to any environment you're in. It's just kind of mesmerizing to watch the positive energy that comes out, and what comes out after that is the effect that it has on people. It brings positivity.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
It's my opinion, and maybe not just me, but it's my opinion you can either be really super positive or be super, super negative. I don't really have an in between, maybe
Yeah.
ADHD in me, but I vote every single day to try to be as positive as I can every single day because you never know who you're affecting, who is in your circle of influence that says, "Wow, I'm so grateful that I had that conversation today because I really am struggling today." You never know. And so if you can be positive, and not to say that I don't have negative days, everybody does. I'm just saying like my goal is every single day to be as positive as I can, helpful as I can. And and again, you never know, just that smile to some random stranger could make a difference.
Yes, absolutely. So you also published an Amazon bestseller book called Women of Perfection,
Yeah.
Perfectly Imperfect. And it's about the pressure modern women feel to appear perfect
Mhm.
socially, professionally, emotionally, physically, and how that pursuit of perfection can, become emotionally exhausting and inauthentic. A lot of people, just, you can tell that they're just performing for the views and stuff
Yeah.
like that. They're not authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
So, um, yeah. So, could you talk a bit about that and who the book is about? Um,
Absolutely. I would love
yeah.
to. And so my first book was Women of Perfection, Perfectly Imperfect. So that was on par. And it's literally about my life and overcoming obstacles, how I have ADHD, struggle with perfectionism, and all these other things. And it was because, as a child, I literally was like, I really want this life of, because I had such a bad life. I mean, both my parents were on heroin, I was trafficked, like all this horrible stuff. And I saw this Hallmark movie. And, Hallmark movies, especially Christmas ones, you're like, oh, well, that looks pretty perfect. How do I get that life? And so literally as a child, I remember thinking, gosh, that's the life I want. And so I always tried to strive for this version of perfectionism that's unattainable. I mean, nobody lives a perfectly hallmark life. And
Right.
even who seems like they are, there's something always, no one's perfect. And so essentially, my book is about overcoming the obstacles, like you said. It's actually really funny. Well, not more recently, in the more recent years, there was a great movie called Bad Moms. And it was pretty much on par with how it is being a mom in today's society, and also a woman in today's society, which was more of that Barbie movie that came out more recently too. That gives a better idea as to like what those requirements are of us as women and as moms, and it really helps us to understand and see a different perspective or point of view of that it's not necessary to have the Pinterest perfect birthday every single day or every single birthday, or it doesn't have to have Pinterest perfect dinners every single night, or whatever those things are, right? And so my book is all about overcoming those obstacles, overcoming perfectionism, and showing that anything is possible as long as you put your mind to it.
Absolutely. So, yeah, great job. And right now women desperately trying to be like someone else and
Yes,
in the process lose themselves basically.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. So, I can tell you that this book could be very helpful to men as well because men often don't see or appreciate, what their women go through to be the way they are.
Yes, it's true.
So, to everyone who wants to be inspired and enlightened, go to Stephanie's book, Women of Perfection, Perfectly Imperfect. Just buy it from Amazon. I promise you won't be disappointed. So, yeah, so as a scientist myself, I love deep observation and research into everything that's not trivial and requires curiosity and thinking. One of the things is human psychology and science of neuroplasticity, or the ability of your brain to adapt to the environment. So I wanted to discuss the connection between perfectionism and childhood trauma. So, do you think perfectionism is actually a trauma response disguised as ambition?
I absolutely believe that's the case. And I feel like it's almost like a version of PTSD to like an extreme because, at least from my experience, maybe other people have different ones. But when you have such a traumatized childhood and it's so bad, all you want is, at least for me, to overcome that and to be the complete opposite of what you've seen. And perfectionism, for my version at least, was this ability to be the complete opposite of what I saw. And so I absolutely consider that as my version of PTSD based off of what I went through as my childhood. And perfectionism is 100% part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, um, you know, the, when you do go through adversities as a child, and I've been through some as a child myself, it can either go, so to speak, it can either transform into something powerful, positively, powerfully positive as a grown up, it go up, or it can go down. So,
Mhm.
and that really depends on how you recovered from it.
Mhm.
Have you been helped to get recovered from it, and how, So if you had the support, a little bit later in life, and how to recover, you kind of skyrocket up in terms of positivity, trying to help people and everything. But if you haven't been helped and stuff, then most probably your life will continue going down like an
Mhm.
exponential function, up and down. So,
Absolutely.
I can see that you've recovered, and there's definitely a relationship there between the adversity and success in the future. And when you look at it, the relationship is the correlation is on even on the chemical and cellular level. Like, the chemistry of the brain changes, the signaling changes, everything changes, like, in you, once you've been through all that, right? And
Mhm.
so, but we'll go into that a little later. So when people look at successful entrepreneurs, the first thoughts that cross their minds are usually envy, jealousy. For some it's motivation to become an entrepreneur.
Right.
And all they can see is the success. And that's a very kind of shallow way of looking at success, because success is usually like the top of the iceberg,
Mhm.
which isn't, pretty much the insignificant portion of the whole structure. The real body of the iceberg is actually under the water. So they don't really know what blood, sweat, and tears went into building and maintaining the success, not only in your business, but also in your family, as a mother, as a wife, and a loved member of your society. So, in your opinion, is there a part of entrepreneurship that you think is psychologically unhealthy, but nobody ever talks about?
That's a great question. And I do feel like there is an unhealthy aspect of entrepreneurship, and that is stress. So a lot of people see the successes, they see the money that comes from a lot of successful entrepreneur. They see, this really great, like you said, the tip of the iceberg. But really, it's a lot. It's a lot of stress on a daily basis, which is not healthy to be under masses amounts of stress on a daily basis. However, once you learn how to manage the stress of being an entrepreneur, which takes some time sometimes, and especially if you're high energy, kind of like I am, a very high energy, so stress is a very, very predominant. You kind of have to learn how to manage that stress and how to manage the entrepreneurial aspect of life in a fashion that doesn't create such high cortisone to where you're not in a constant battle with yourself.
Hmm.
And so that I would say is probably one of the hardest parts of being an entrepreneur is that, and also there are a lot of people who love to see you fail. A lot of
True.
people who love to see you fail. And I don't post any of my failures online typically on purpose, but what I do is I try really hard just to keep that positive energy, positive
Hmm.
vibe out as much as possible. There have been many failures, many, many failures, but the people who are hoping for those failures, watching for the failures, you learn really quickly you don't want them in your life anyways. They're not in your circle on purpose. And if they are in your circle, then they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
If they're
Kick
watching
them
you,
out.
wanting you to be exactly, because you are the sum of the five people you hang out with, right? And that's
That's
what's
true.
a very commonly known saying.
Hmm.
And so with that, I don't wanna be surrounded by people who want me to fail, that I wanna be surrounded by people that want me to be successful and have them help them be successful, and all of us together be in this really positive space.
Absolutely. You're right. I mean, throughout my life, I've actually had a hard time posting my success online and stuff
Mm.
like that, because when I post my success out there, people get jealous and envy and this and that. So,
Mhm.
like, if I buy a new car or whatever, something. I never, post pictures of it, me with it out there and stuff because
Yeah.
again, I know like, a lot of people be jealous and, negative about it. My wife, on the other hand, she posts everything. I
Oh,
keep
yeah.
telling her, but she no. So, um, and yes, negatives as well, because you're right. People would start getting happy with it,
Mhm.
about it. So,
Yes, exactly.
and that's not good either.
Nope.
It's kind of sad, but you kind of have to keep it private, for people not to subconsciously somehow interfere with it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well,
I do bel Yeah,
oh,
go
I'm
for it.
sorry. But here's what I always try to remind myself is everybody has bad days. Everybody goes through
Yeah,
their ups and their downs in their life and their marriages, with their kids, with their jobs. There is nobody that's gone through perfection consistently. Like it's impossible. It's not life,
right.
right? And so to me, it's like saying here, and again, another reason why I'm all about posting the positive things, and I don't post like new cars or any of that either, because I feel like that's just being a little boastful, but
Right.
I really posting about like any kind of fun things that are happening with the nonprofit work I work with, or
Right.
any of the business stuff, or podcasts of how they might be able to be helped, or whatever those things are that are in a positive light, that are still a positive thing in general for my life because I get to be on a wonderful podcast like yourself and other amazing opportunities. And it also gives me the opportunity to share who you are and what you're about, and have other people join you because of what you're presenting and offering to the community. I love it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And, talk about, talking about the nonprofit and helping people, usually when people build businesses, all they think about is the profits,
Yeah.
right? They wanna make money.
Yeah.
You, on the other hand, open them thinking about the people you're going to help.
Yeah.
Sometimes not even making a profit, which is, phenomenal for other people because when you concentrate on helping people, someday eventually it'll be very profitable actually because people keep coming to you and keep seeking your help and then eventually it does become profitable. So it's you know, it's something that I've been thinking about a lot in my life.
Mhm.
Like people build businesses and then the businesses become all about the business and all about making money
Mhm.
and not about people who you're helping. So and if you don't, if it's not about people who you're helping, you're not going to be successful.
No. But
Obviously,
people
you
can
have to.
feel that.
Yeah,
Yeah, people can feel that if they can see that your business isn't about, well, if your business
right,
is something that has nothing to do with people like IT or something like that, then that's
right,
one thing, right? But when you're there servicing and helping people, but you don't care about those people, it's like you
right.
said, no one's gonna refer to them, right? But if they can feel that love and that
Exactly.
support and that joy, and it always comes back to you, always. I've helped 40 companies, 40 people get, different
Mm,
companies up and running, and I did it for free. This was back when I was working just purely at Desert Capital
hmm.
and a few other things. And I really loved being able to help those people grow their businesses to multi-million dollar companies and so much more. But it was a learning experience because in that time frame, those 40 people came back to me with additional opportunities and friends of theirs that wanted to potentially invest. It all comes back around. If you're putting out the positive energy, the positive vibes, the helpfulness, that will come back your direction, especially when you need it the most.
Yes, that is absolutely true. And you've built businesses, nonprofits, communities, brands. But what accomplishment actually made you feel the most fulfilled emotionally?
Okay, so you're gonna laugh at this. Actually, my biggest accomplishment is having kids. And I know that sounds silly because of all of the amazing accomplishments, but the fact that me and my husband were not supposed to have any kids at all, and I feel so
Oh,
blessed that I have both my kids, and they both are good kids. They're good people. They're honest. They're loving. They're caring, and that to me is the biggest accomplishment I could ever ask for. And the fact that we have a little family that is a like, it feels like a family, it's a real family, we love each other, we're supportive of each other, it's not, crazy in the household, it's very
yeah.
calm. That to me is my biggest accomplishment, is having that family unit that I had always wished for.
And then, of course, it's when something is not supposed to happen and then it happens, there's a lot of credit that goes to you, obviously, but some credit goes to the higher power, God.
I give it all
So
to God. That's not me at all.
that's pretty amazing, the synergy.
Uh,
Some people call it the universe, some people
yes,
call it God, higher power, whatever it is, it's with you, it's supporting you. So, and
absolutely.
I tend to always think that it supports you when you deserve it.
Mhm.
It
100%.
doesn't support everyone. I
True.
can tell you
Very,
that.
very true. Well, I mean, I feel like it can see God, universe, whatever you wanna call him, her, whatever. I do feel that it can see the heart and the energy that's being provided, right? So if that person has a really great heart and really wants to make a difference and really is
Yes.
trying to do their very best, the energy, the God, universe can
Mhm.
see that and can help guide in a right way. Whereas if that heart is hardened and not in a good space and really wants to hurt people or hurt something on purpose,
Mhm.
the universe, God can see that too. And I feel
Right.
like the people with the good hearts and the good energies are moving in a very positive way because of that. That's
Absolutely.
my feeling.
Yeah. Have you heard about recently released documentary about the world-known climber Dean Potter who died in the jumpsuit accident? Have you heard anything like that? So
No.
Dean Potter was a free solo climber. So he climbs rocks and without rope, without anyone. And it's like a high consequence. If you fall, you die
Yeah.
type of a thing. And, he's best climber in the world at the time. And he would risk his life on a regular basis, scaling like giant walls without a rope or a partner. And he said something very interesting. He said, when the consequence of a fall is death, he somehow acquires superhuman power to pull off climbs that are at or above the limit of his abilities, all because he's able to control his fear and actually harness it to be able to complete the climb.
Hmm.
So, it's that relationship with fear that
And
like he's able to actually use the fear to his advantage because he knows if he makes one mistake, he dies, right?
yes.
So that sort of demands perfection from him.
Yeah.
And he's like, he has no other choice but to deliver that perfection. Otherwise, he's done.
Yeah.
Um, so belief is a superpower, basically. What belief changed your life more than strategy ever did?
The biggest belief for me that really changed my life into such a positive way was that, and it comes back to that Hallmark movie experience that I had as a
Hmm.
child when I saw something and when I was in a bad situation and I saw a good situation and I said, well, that's the life I want right there. And it's
Hmm.
funny because a lot of people see TV or movies or TV shows or whatever as negative things. For me, it's been very inspiring in a lot of ways because I watch only pretty positive things. I don't usually watch a lot of negative things on purpose. So I watched this Hallmark movie as a child and it inspired me to be more, to live that life. And then as I got a little older, my very favorite movie as I got into like my teenage years and was adopted was Clueless. And then it went to Legally Blonde. And those movies inspired me to say, you know what? Like these girls are beautiful and intelligent and amazing in so many different ways. And they're helping in their community in different ways. And making a difference. And I said, that's my belief is I am going to be beautiful and confident and smart and I'm going to make a difference in my communities. And so believe it or not, a lot of who I become today is because of that belief that if they can do it, I can do it. Even if it's just a movie. I didn't realize that it was like all fake before because I was a little kid, but it was, if they can do it, I can do it. Let me watch me. And that's literally where I've gone over the last 40 years is if they can do it, I can do it. Now watch me.
Hmm.
And and it's funny because even though I still haven't achieved all of my ultimate goals, I've achieved a bulk of them so far. And I'm hoping that inspires maybe a couple people out there to achieve their goals too.
Awesome. So one of the things that I've kind of seen is that early childhood adversity creates leaders. It creates strong-willed people. It creates people who make the right decisions under constraint.
Mhm.
and under immense pressure.
Mhm.
And that's what they've seen, and that's what they've done to survive the adversity, you know. And so those are the people who actually become successful entrepreneurs, executives, CEOs, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Because those are the skills that you need as an adult to succeed in those high pressure jobs.
Mhm.
People who are born and they've been like born billionaires or millionaires or whatever. They've never had to go through any adversity in their lives, right?
Mhm.
Those people are usually extremely boring. They become leaders because their family is so rich and powerful that they give them those leadership kind of on the silver
Ye
platter, but they never become good leaders though, you know? So they never become leaders who think first about their people, the employees, the people they're serving. And they never listen to the voice of the customer or voice of the employees. They just listen to their own, I want this, I want that, get it done, stuff like that. I don't care how you do it, right?
Mhm.
So leadership, the crucial leadership aspects and skills are lacking. And I don't think that those skills can be obtained
Mm.
without going through adversity, and overcoming it. So, from that perspective, that's what I've kind of noticed with people throughout my life in general. And so, in your case, obviously, like I can definitely see that connection and how you overcame it and what you're doing right now. It's so amazing. So I'm really thankful to you. From my life, I grew up in like post-Soviet Armenia. I'm from Armenia in general. Was born there. So, and I grew up there until I was around 19, 20. And then I came here, but we used to have like no electricity, no water, no gas, nothing because the government was mafia and they
Mhm.
were selling the electricity to the neighborhood country, not to their people.
Oh,
So,
my goodness.
and then they were kind of you know breaking the infrastructure apart and selling it, for their enrichment, not for the people.
Oh my
And so when you disassemble the infrastructure, your transformers tend to explode and stuff. And so almost the entire country was without power.
my
So,
goodness.
and I'm talking for months at a time. And so we had to survive through swollen, frozen fingers and so on, and like studying to go to university under a candlelight and stuff
Oh my
like that. So
good.
for me, it was a kind of a profound, very hard experience. But throughout all that, like my dad, he actually brought in a tank battery. Like, I don't know where he got the tank battery from, but he brought a tank battery. And every time there was electricity for like an hour or two, he would like recharge it, and then when the electricity goes out, he would power the whole house or the apartment we lived in with that electricity. So we had TV, we have lights, the fluorescent lights he built, and we even had a functional doorbell, that worked
Wow.
when you touched it with your finger, it would make a sound, It's like a plate, metal plate. You touch it and it makes sound.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so my dad, he's always been a scientist, and that creativity, the adversity brought out this creativity and the desire not only to survive but also thrive, to be better than everyone else. Like
Mm.
people were looking everywhere around us. Nobody has electricity. We see like candle lights here and there. But for us, we had electricity. So people used to come to our house to watch TV.
You guys are the cool people on the block. That makes sense.
And so that's where you see that's why like my dad is a really strong leader, extremely strong leader. And that's what me and my brother, we are also the same way. We're
Mhm.
very strong leaders in our families, in the community, at work, and so there's a saying, I don't know if you've heard about this. There was a saying, it says, bad times create good leaders. Good leaders create good time.
Mhm.
Good time creates bad leaders,
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. So it's like it's a cycle where the parent creates the best life for their child. The child grows up a strong leader, creates a good time for their children, and the good times for the children create weak leaders.
I
So
love that.
but that's interesting because it brings about the idea that maybe we should create little adversities for our children, controlled adversities.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
some of the strongest people in my life have actually on purpose done that. Like there's this I'm big into climbing, so I know a lot about climbers and stuff. So there's this really famous climber called Tommy Caldwell.
Hmm.
His parents used to take him into the mountains and dig like a snow cave and just spend a night there for no reason. For
Just
no reason but to create an adversity for the child
okay.
that he needs to survive in a controlled environment with the parents, so this guy grew up to be one of the strongest willed people I've ever seen. And he now does the same thing for his children.
Mhm.
So it's pretty amazing thing. It's not trivial to people. Children don't come with instructions on how to
Mhm.
make them successful. So how do you have children, and they are, children nowadays, they're all into their social media and devices, phones and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Have you been able to, and this is just an advice for me because I'm in trouble here. Have you been able to, kind of be able to control their time on social media and not be kind of self-centered like teenagers and kids are nowadays. A lot of them are very self-centered because they're so concentrated on this, you know, AI digital world and this and that.
Mhm.
How are you able to kind of balance that and keep that? Are you able to do that or haven't been successful?
Yeah, no, I've been really fortunate. So, at a very young ages, I started taking my children to different nonprofit events.
Mhm,
So I would take my kids. I think at my earliest days were taking my son, who's now 17, with me to do toy donations. And I'd say these kids have no toys. Literally, when I was a little kid, this
mhm,
is me. Like this is what we're doing to help these kids. So at young ages, I would show them, hey, this is food. They don't have any food. Let's make sure we take them food. And so starting off there was a huge
mm,
hint in the right direction. And then from there, at 13 years old, I then set up my son with a checking account, savings account, and trading
mhm,
account through an app that's really phenomenal for kids specifically to show him this is your
mhm,
money. If you go under, we turn off the account. If
right,
you go over and here's what the trading accounts and here's how to trade and here's how to do these different things. And then as he got older, we said, we're not comfortable with you being on social media
mhm,
primarily. And so he had no desire to go onto social media. So I said, no problem. That's wonderful. And so he actually has kind of stayed away from the social media aspect of things. And he's a very well balanced child. And it's also because we make him do sweat equity of everything. So what I mean
mm,
by that is that and that sounds odd, but essentially, one of the biggest theories that I've heard as a child, as I've grown up, is this theory of well, the silver spoon. I hear all the time. Well, you've been born with a silver spoon because I look a very specific way. I have a certain car, all these different things, and I say, nope, that was not the but what I have done is I've said with my son specifically, I said, you have to actually put energy into getting what you want. So, for
right,
example, when he wanted his very first gaming computer, I said, no problem. Well, you have to save up enough money. You, not money that you've used from
mhm,
us, but you have to save up enough money to put down, $500 or whatever it was of the computer. And same with his car, and same with other things too and it's the bigger things, not like clothes or any of that
right,
stuff, right? And it helped him to better understand, okay, so I'm not being given this
Mhm.
without some kind of effort from me. And it's not because we couldn't afford it. It was because we wanted him
Right.
to value what he owned, what he had. And he takes
Mhm.
better care of everything he owns than any other kid that's his age that I'm aware of, at least, that are like his friends that I know.
Mhm.
And it's because he had to work hard for what he has.
Mhm.
And we still guide him, we still show him, but those little things of knowing that he takes good care of what he owns because he put work into it, because he learned how to trade in the markets, because he learned how to use a savings account and checking account, because he's gone and helped with charity his entire life,
Mhm.
in different ways, with me, of course, and my daughter too. It's a great example as to
Mhm.
how we were able to kind of help him to grow into being, this self-sufficient, and very intelligent, emotionally intelligent. He's also empathetic as well. He's very
Mhm.
empathetic is not the right word, but he's very good at understanding where people are at emotionally
Mhm.
and reading the room and helping people because of being around so many children who had nothing and all of these other things and wanting to help. So
Mhm.
I feel that this is a decision you have to make when they're young and show them as they get older how to become good people. Social media is just the tip of the iceberg, if you want to call it that, where
Mhm.
it says, here's this level of perfectionism that you're required to have, but really it's
Right.
not at all. It's this layers of everything else that comes between the two, in
Mhm.
in my opinion.
Yeah, no. That is perfectly put. Children are like malleable Play-Doh. You can mold them into whatever you want pretty much. And you obviously want the best for them. And so you made a decision early on to mold them into, self-sufficient, autonomous, smart people making decisions, right decisions under pressure and everything. So you're growing leaders, future leaders, which is amazing. Yeah, thank you for that. And I have just this last question.
Yes.
If your children one day watched this interview 20 years from now,
Mhm.
what's the one thing you would want them to understand about who you really were?
I would say honestly, one, that I love them more than myself by far. That I love my family. They are my number one in my life. But I also would love for my children to understand and see that me I'm on this earth to make a difference. And I'm praying and hoping that I have made a difference in just a few people's lives, if not hundreds of people's lives eventually. But I really want my kids to see that, wow, my mom really tried to make a difference on this earth, really loved us, and really genuinely cared about people in general.
Amazing. Stephanie, thank you so much for being my guest today and kind of shining your light into the world. There's people who are luminous, and you're one of them.
Oh,
And please continue being the way you are and shining light at people and helping people with everything that you do. Thank you so much once again.
thank you.